Welcome to the Mom Founders Table. Pull up a chair and join me every week as I become your thought partner and help you lead to create change. I'm your host, Kelsea Kenry, entrepreneur, millionaire mom of three, and strategic business coach for established mom entrepreneurs. Every week, you will get tactical guidance to apply to your business, leadership, and life that will help you further your true success while also being invited into a new way of thinking and being that creates true freedom. I'm here to call you out and call you up, so take a seat and let's begin. Welcome back to another episode of the Mom Founders Table, and today we have another client interview series, and today is a special day because we have not only Rachel, my incredible client that's been with me for a couple of years, but also her brand new baby, Carson. So we always love when babies join us, and they're always welcome in any of our meetings because when we're moms and business owners, sometimes there is some overlap and we have to do both. So thank you, Rachel, for being here and for spending your time with me today.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So let's start off with your business, and what you do is so cool. And I've also been on the client side of things, so I know how cool it is. And I'm going to let you tell people a little bit more about you and what you do.
Yeah. So my husband and I own a chiropractic wellness clinic here in Sarasota, where Kelsea lives. And we've owned the clinic since May of 2021. So we actually just celebrated 4 years as a business. And our purpose and focus is to help people to heal from any sort of chronic health condition without the need of drugs, surgery, and things like that. So we take a very holistic approach to healing the body. And in order to do that, we run all sorts of different lab tests, as well as provide chiropractic care services to really focus on the nervous system. A lot of what Kelsea focuses on and talks a lot about is calming the nervous system, right? Prioritizing the state of your nervous system. And that is a huge foundational, really part of our business and how we help patients to heal from within.
Yeah. And it's like, I love that it's not taboo anymore, that people are really starting to understand that you can't just put a Band-Aid on things, right? To where it's like, whether it's your health, your business, like if there's a problem that's manifesting physically, you have to figure out the root cause of the problem. And that's something I truly love about what you do and the model that you guys have, is because you do really like intensive testing, and like you're really there to help people figure out what's going on. And I think that like a lot of people come to you because they've tried a lot of stuff that hasn't worked, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we usually, unfortunately, are people's like last ditch effort to find solutions for their health. Usually, we're seeing patients that have been to so many other medical doctors, different specialists, and usually what they're being told is to take another medication, or that, you know, maybe they just have anxiety, or it's all in their head, or there's just nothing that can be done. And something we really pride ourselves on is digging deeper to find the root cause, because our bodies are always designed to function normally. There's just something that's creating a stress and creating a roadblock when there is disease or dysfunction that shows up in the body. So yeah, it is unfortunate that people usually find us when it's already been years of struggling with a problem, which is probably similar with your line of work, right? Usually people don't take the proactive, preventative approach, but they're finding us once they're already struggling.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because I talked about that on my podcast last week. I was talking about hiring, right? And how so many people, whether it's hiring or whatever stage of your business, and it's like asking for support from a like preventative place and from a place of being proactive is almost uncommon, right? So like you're seeing patients who are typically like very sick. But one other thing that I love is that you guys are so well versed in a variety of dysfunction, in a variety, whether it's like people having gut issues, people having, you know, certain types of pain, people just struggling with fertility. And so I love that like you have this really great approach that is focused on, again, getting to the root of that problem, figuring out why it's happening, And it's all based on the belief, right, that our bodies are supposed to function well, that like they were built to heal. And if they're not healing, something's blocking it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what really led you to this type of business, and why do you believe so deeply in the work that you do?
Yeah, a lot of it was from my personal experiences. When I was around 16 years old, I started to deal with a lot of different health issues, had migraines all the time. So I was in high school at the time and thought I was living a healthy life. I exercised, I was a big runner, I ate healthy for what I thought was healthy. And I really learned firsthand how much stress takes a toll on the body. And that's what led me to experience a ton of different hormone imbalances. I ended up having endometriosis, which is usually an estrogen imbalance with your hormones causing really painful periods. For some, it can lead to infertility and affect fertility. I also had PCOS, so I was having so much pain all the time. And through my experience, I went to so many different doctors to try to get answers. And at the time, I was only 16 years old. So I wasn't super well versed in the world of holistic health or what I know now,
Sure.
but I really saw what a lot of my patients experience, from firsthand experience, and went doctor to doctor just being told to take another medication, try birth control for my periods. And I just knew deep down that that just wasn't the answer. There had to be something else going on because I was living a healthy life, or doing the right things lifestyle wise. And I eventually ended up finding a chiropractor in my hometown that my mom took me to. And at the time, I really didn't understand what chiropractic was. I just was like, this again is a last ditch effort. Like, why not try it? I've tried everything else.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think of chiropractic as for back pain or neck pain. And that's kind of the thought I had. So I didn't understand why I was going to see this guy, but I went. And at the time, my period completely stopped from the stress I was under, especially with all the running I was doing at the time. So I went almost like a
Wow.
year without a cycle at all. And it was as soon as I started getting adjusted by this chiropractor, my cycle came back, my period was regular, everything started to balance out. He worked with me on nutritional changes. I saw my migraines go away. I even had like autoimmune markers starting to pop up that I was able to reverse through lifestyle change and chiropractic care. So
Wow.
after that, I was like, my whole perspective on health and the human body really changed because I was able to see how much the body truly can heal when you just figure out the root cause and figure out where the imbalances are coming from. So ever since that experience, I've just kind of been almost like my own detective and own doctor in a sense, trying to figure out different health hurdles along the way. And then throughout college and even chiropractic school, that's when I actually struggled with the endometriosis and more hormone issues and found the wellness way. And they went a step further from the chiropractic care to actually run the testing and to understand, what's causing the hormone imbalance and if there's autoimmunity, like what's leading to that and how can we actually heal
Right.
the body. So I did all my own testing. I'm a patient just like all my patients are, and on my own journey as well with my health. So I've seen just my health transform like so much since being a patient, of myself. And just had a baby 3 months ago, almost 3 months ago. So my hormones are obviously in a much, much different place than they were in the past. And I really don't think I would have been able to have the pregnancy journey I had, the birth journey I had with my son, if it weren't for following all that I've learned
Yeah.
with my personal experience.
There's so much, everything is so much better, even though it's hard, right? When we have a personal journey, like it was hard that you had to go through all of that. But
Mm-hmm.
because you went through all of that, that's why you're so passionate about your work and your clients and everything that you do. And I think that's why you guys get such good results with your patients, right? Because when you truly care and there's a level of empathy there
Right.
of like, I've been through this, I've struggled with this. And it's beautiful to see just like how that's modeled. And obviously being on the client side, and like Rachel, adjusts all my kids. And so it's just really, everything is different when the person on the other side truly cares about what they're doing. And that's absolutely like modeled throughout, not just the wellness way, the franchise itself, but I think anybody can be a franchise owner, right? But like
Mhm.
how you run the actual business is different. Like the
Yeah.
franchise gives you kind of like the model and the tools and some of the structure, but like how you run it and who you are and how you lead is so dependent on you. And because you have this personal story, it's just really beautiful to see like how that's flown in, how that's like been woven into your work, and obviously why you guys have been so successful, I think.
Yeah, right. Business owning is hard enough. I think having a true like purpose and understanding the patient just takes it to another level where
Yeah.
every hard day is so worth it because I know the outcome that people are getting. And I was in their shoes at one point. So that just makes it so
Hmm.
much more rewarding.
Yeah. So, what is a fun fact that we should know about you that maybe people wouldn't expect?
Gosh, fun fact. This is always my least favorite question because I don't know. I don't know fun facts about myself. Let me think. This is a fun fact that I shared for years that I don't know I can say is true anymore, but for a really long time I had never tried bacon, which people think is the most absurd thing ever. But I did finally try it like this past year. But
That's
I'm
crazy.
very, yeah. And I work with like on nutrition, we talk about food all the time, but surprisingly, I was always a picky eater and I'm so weird about certain foods that I just will not try them.
Okay, so how about this? Because obviously, my listeners are business owners. Most of them are moms or want to be moms. What is something that when you see patients that fall into that category, right? When you see people that are entrepreneurs or really ambitious, what is something, a common problem that you see, and what is maybe something surprising that you instruct them to do to help with
Well, business owners in particular usually are going to put their own needs or I guess prioritize themselves last a lot of times, right? And they will focus on the business needs. So they're always go, 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 constantly in that like fight or flight type of state,
that?
which is
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of chronic disease and dysfunction in the body comes from. So, something that this is just like a simple thing on a daily basis, I see a lot of women will drink coffee on an empty stomach, which is such a simple fix. I know we talked about, and this
Literally
is
hiding.
something that is it's such a simple fix if you think about it, but it's also one that women struggle the most to change because it's such a habit. And usually
Yeah.
they're trying to get a million things done and be productive in the morning and want that caffeine fix. But by starting with coffee before breakfast or before a protein, you're actually putting yourself more in that state of fight or flight, and it's
Mm,
causing cortisol imbalance, and that can lead to a lot of burnout in your body, which then
mm,
ultimately can lead to burnout in your business because if you're not feeling good, it's going to eventually catch up to you in your ability to be productive and all that. So it's a
mm.
simple fix, but very hard to get people to change it.
Yeah. I feel like what's funny about that too is obviously there's so much alignment in our work, right? Like you're healing people's bodies and I'm helping them with like the business and the nervous system. And I think it's like the changes, it's like what Kathy always says to my client Kathy. She's like, you just make these like small tweaks and it creates this big leap. And I really think like that's what you're talking about here is like usually we think that to have change or create change or have a different result, that it needs to be this like revolutionary, like really hard like thing. And a lot of times it is simple things like this. So let's say, right, not asking for myself at all right now. Let's say that you do drink coffee every morning on an empty stomach and you do that because it's 5 a.m. and you're not going to make breakfast, what would you tell people? Like, what should they have to help balance cortisol if they're not going to eat a full breakfast or literally don't have time to make anything?
Yeah, so even something as simple as adding like a scoop of protein powder to your coffee. I have a lot of patients that will do that now, or adding
Yeah.
collagen, or they'll make
Yeah.
a protein shake and drink that first, at least some of it first before going to the coffee. You could even add in, a lot of people will do coffee in their protein shake and they'll just
Yep.
blend it all up because they feel like they need that coffee right away. But at
Mm,
least you're getting the protein at the same time. So it's not on a
yeah.
completely empty stomach. And that can help.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have collagen that I use that I would put in my coffee. And these are like, this is the the shit that like our minds tell us. So I got collagen, was putting it in my coffee, and with like the size of my coffee cup plus the collagen, I was doing the little, what are the little spinny things
Oh
called?
yeah.
And it would spill every morning. So I was like, fuck this. I'm not putting this in here anymore. So stupid. But now I'm gonna have to put it back
You
in
just need
my
a new cup.
coffee.
That's all.
Just use the giant cups that you have,
Yeah.
Kelsey. But it's funny, right? That like whether it's your health, whether it's your business, there's always just like we come up with excuses and we rationalize those
Mhm.
excuses. So we're like, this isn't that big of a deal until it's a problem,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Until we're really suffering, until we are miserable, or you know, these problems are manifesting physically. So just
Mhm.
because this is such a hot topic for my clientele, how do you see stress typically manifesting in the body?
Yeah, that's a great question. I see it so many different ways. In women, especially cycling women, it usually
Yeah.
affects their period. So it can
Mm.
actually lead, which it did for me, it can lead to really low progesterone levels. And
Hmm.
progesterone, so that's going to affect ovulation. Some women are not even ovulating, even if you're getting a period. And that's something a lot of women don't realize can
Oh,
happen.
wow.
But it can plummet your progesterone levels, which will definitely impact fertility. So, a lot of I work with so many couples on fertility
Hmm.
challenges, and a lot of them are not getting pregnant because, again, they're in that like fight or flight state. So, if you think about like if your body thinks that you are really, your body doesn't know the difference between running from a tiger to save your life versus let me get this deadline done and get,
Mm.
this chapter of the book written before midnight. So
Right.
your body doesn't know that difference. So if you are under so much stress because of your business or your lifestyle, whatever it may be, your body's going to go into like protection mode and it won't be able to create another life and allow you to get pregnant, or it won't be able to allow your immune system to heal if you're fighting a sickness. So you might see sickness pop up more. Or with your cycle, it can then decrease your progesterone levels and then your period's super painful or even non existent, which is what happened to me.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And obviously, I've seen all of these things as well, like sleep disruption, anxiety, stress, headaches, I think
Yeah.
are a big one too. So, well, it's so great that there are people like you who have this, like, I feel like it's not taboo anymore. I feel like holistic health and natural supplementation and lifestyle change, I feel like maybe it's just me hoping that people are
Mhm.
starting to see the light of like, okay, there is no easy button here,
Right.
right? Because if I take this medication, like, what is this going to do? You know, it's like
Hmm.
this rise with like Ozempic, right? And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of this. And it's like, I have personal opinions, but it's like, you have to choose your hard,
Yeah.
right? And either your hard is going to be your lifestyle change, making these tweaks of like not drinking coffee on an empty stomach, like making these small tweaks so that you can live better and enjoy your actual life, since we get one of those.
Hmm.
Or, you choose your heart, that eventually will come with all of these things from the medications and stuff, because I feel like that stuff only works temporarily. Like if you don't have true habit and behavior change, none of the other stuff matters.
Yeah, 100%. It is always a band-aid, like you said earlier. It's just covering up a problem. So people may feel better
Right.
for the time being and think that they're able to continue working, the however many hours a week that they're doing and continue keeping up with their demands. But eventually the body will no longer be able to sustain that. And then that's when
Yeah.
symptoms usually are
Yeah.
so much worse, where if we found out the root cause and solution to begin with, you wouldn't be
Hmm.
as sick as you could be in the future.
Yeah, that's so true. It's being preventative. And I think that really comes from, especially as women, is like, it sounds silly, but it's almost like self-love and self-worth, right? To where we're so validated by the external things of like how much money we make and how much we succeed and how we impact other people, that like you say, it's like it's very easy to put ourselves last. So I want to steer the conversation and talk a little bit about our work together. But I know that there are women listening, before we get into that, that are like, okay, I need her help. I'm struggling with immune, fertility, gut issues, cycle issues. What is a step that they could take? How do they talk to you? What do you want them to do if this is the case?
Yeah, so I would say you can definitely follow me on Instagram. It's Dr. Rachel Wolfe is my
Mm-hmm.
handle. And then you can also head to our website where we have a lot more information on our perspective. And you can always book a free initial call with us to talk to any of our providers. And that's T as in Thomas, WW, Sarasota.
Okay. We'll put all that in the show notes too, but I just know that people obviously listening definitely need your help, and it's just what you guys do is amazing. And the cool thing is you guys have virtual options. So if you are not in Sarasota, there are wellness ways that are like everywhere at this point, I feel like. But
Yeah,
if you want to
they're
work with
all over
Rachel,
the country.
her husband, they also work with people virtually, which is awesome because you can get testing done. You can get all of that done right where you are. So, all right. So let's go back a little bit. Let's go to when we first started working together, right before you hired me. When we came into this relationship together, where were you and like what were you really needing or wanting?
Yeah, it's crazy thinking back to that. What was it, 2 years ago, maybe now?
Yeah, almost two
Feel like
years.
almost 2 years. I think it was maybe August. So I think it's about to be 2 years. And I was definitely in a place, it was before we started. We wanted to get pregnant pretty soon, but it was before we even started trying because we knew the business had to be in a different place in order to for me to get pregnant, have a healthy pregnancy because of the work I do. I know how important it is to not be overworking myself during a pregnancy and how important it was for me to be able to have the flexibility to be home somewhat and really raise my child. So we were in a place where I felt like the business really relied on me as well as my husband, but I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I couldn't take any time off in order to the business would definitely have been affected negatively if I took a day off or if I didn't bring work home with me. It was constantly that we were talking about work when we would come home from the office. So dinner conversations were about work. It was affecting our relationship, our ability to just enjoy the life we were creating. We both moved down to Florida because we love the sunshine. We love everything that Sarasota has to offer, but we were pouring so much time and energy into our business that it was like we couldn't even enjoy the fruits of our labor. When we had really good months, it was hard to even be proud of that or really then do something fun to celebrate because it was just on to the next goal. So I knew that my mindset definitely needed to change, my schedule needed to change. And in order to get to the point of where we were able to think about starting a family, I needed to work less for sure. And that also entailed coming up with better systems for the office. I used to struggle with delegating a lot and I would just take on every task because it was easier for me to do it myself because I have trust issues. But
All
yeah,
of us,
that's really
all
where
of
I was
us.
at before finding Kelsea. And I remember telling my husband I need a business coach or something. And it was the timing just worked out perfectly where you had some sort of networking event in the area and I went to it. And I remember after that, I was I'm doing whatever she has to offer because if I don't, I just knew that things were not going to be good for my personal health, which I'm all about practice what you preach. And I knew at the time I wasn't doing that. I was stressing out so much that my health was still not where I wanted it to be and for our relationship and future family.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so crazy just to look back and I logically know that all these things are happening, obviously, but even to just it's crazy just to think actually how far that you have come. And I think it's so easy to almost turn a blind eye and know that things don't feel good or they don't feel right. And like you said, this was affecting your relationship with your husband. This was affecting you were emotionally heightened. You were feeling a lot of guilt and stress around wanting to be a mom, but not being able to leave the business. And I think that a lot of we all feel that at some point of it has to be this or that. And you don't really know how to break that cycle, right? How
Mhm.
to interrupt that pattern of controlling everything and not being able to delegate. And you recognize and logically know I need to change. I need to delegate. I need to take better care of my health. I need to better care of my relationship. I need to show up in all these different areas. But you felt like there was no even space or time to do that, right?
Yeah, 100%. I didn't have the systems in place that we have now through working with
Mm,
you in order to delegate a lot. And I felt like I didn't have the time, exactly like you said, to even put those systems in place or,
mm,
to have the right direction as to where to go. So,
mm.
yeah, it's crazy thinking back to where things were about two
Right.
years ago.
And I love that you said the word direction because I think that what some people often misconstrue is there's a difference in somebody like advising and coaching and consulting and like filling gaps and like obviously helping with different skill sets that are maybe not your zone of genius. But a lot of times it's not that there's things that you don't know that like obviously we implemented, whether that's like platforms or types of processes or types of communication skills, things like that. And that's part of it, is being able to like gain that knowledge that's like then you're able to go on and teach other people as well. But there is parts of it too that I think some people don't hire support or help because they think they logically know what to do, but they still aren't doing it. So some of it is just like that direction of and accountability, right? Of like, do these things in this order so
Mhm.
that you can breathe,
Yeah.
right?
Right. That's something we see with patients all the time too. Like a lot of times we are, I'll tell patients or your accountability partner because
Mm,
it's easy to read online how to have a healthy diet or to watch a video, right? And
right.
same goes for what you teach and preach. But unless you have somebody that's checking in on you, like motivating you, being your cheerleader, it's very hard to actually follow through with doing the things that you know you need to do.
Yeah. And that's all of us. And I think that's like sometimes our ego gets in the way, right? To where it's like, I've created this successful business. I've done all these things. I should know how to fix this problem. I should know how to not feel this way anymore. I should know how to delegate better. I should know how to hire the right team. Like, I should know. And it's almost like this shame spiral, or it's like this, like, well, since I should know, I'm not going to go ask for help because I should know.
Right.
And then you just stay stuck.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
what was when we started working together, can you think back to like what was your one of your first like aha moments where you were like, "Oh my gosh," or like a breakthrough or some sort of win that you were just like, "Oh my gosh, there's change happening."
I would say probably when our weekends and night times were no longer filled with like work conversations. Because I mean, working with your spouse is already difficult. Like it has its
Mm,
challenges, but
mhm.
learning how to not bring that home and to truly like create a life outside of the business is something that was so important for us to get to that point. And it was hard to see that light at the end of the tunnel before working with you. But I would say, like, pretty early on, we were able to set those boundaries. You would help hold us accountable for those boundaries too. And we were able to just like enjoy a dinner and not open the computer once we got home and we started going on the boat on the weekends and like being outside, going to the beach, whatever it was. And that was something that in the first few years of living here, we barely got we barely got out because we were just
Mm,
always working or just too exhausted from the week to even
yep.
go enjoy our life.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about. Like that, like you said, like you guys moved to Florida to be outside, to be in the sunshine, to have that. And so I think it's cool because I've done some obviously sessions with you and Connor. And one thing that I love about you guys is that you guys are really great about taking accountability. And like in sessions that I've had, obviously individually with you, but also with you guys together, there's this level of like recognition where you guys are like, okay, I am doing this. And like there's like a gentle kind of call out that you guys have for each other, but it's not like defensive, but it's just like, I'm doing this, but then she's doing this, and that's causing this. And just the way that like you guys have also learned to communicate, right? And like
Mhm.
to be able to be like, oh, yeah, maybe throwing all that stuff at him at one time is not going to be optimal for like the way that he works. And
Right.
so I think one of the reasons that you guys have seen the change is because you do take responsibility for like, I need to do better at this. And like, one of the things that I love so much about you is like your desire for continuous improvement, and not from a place of like, nothing's good enough, but from a place of like, how can I do this better? Or like, this isn't sitting right, or we're struggling with this part of our team. Like, how can we do this better? And like, you've just continued to like layer on like this new skill set of just like your leadership and your communication. And I remember early on, you had this like deep desire to like be a really good leader for
Mhm.
your team. And I think that you were struggling emotionally with feeling like you were doing a good job. And so talk to me a little bit about like your leadership communication and your strategy, and kind of what have you changed and what has really helped in forming good culture and having a good team.
Yeah, I think I have always been somebody who wants to be liked and never want people to be unhappy. Like, I care so much about how my team is doing. I want them to show up happy to work every day. And it was almost like I cared too much to a fault, where it didn't allow me to correct them when there was a mistake or things like that. And then it would end up just affecting me, right? So me not speaking up was then me just going home unhappy about things that could have been addressed and could have been fixed so that everyone was on the same page and everyone was happy. But instead, I just cared too much about, or worried too much about, like upsetting somebody. And that's something that we've worked a lot on over the last 2 years. And I've seen such a shift in just like even our hiring process and the type of people we bring on board. Culture, team culture is one of the most important things really to us. And we're finally at a point where I feel like our team is like better than it's ever been. And
Yeah.
every single person on our team like is really joining in our mission and understands our purpose and is just on fire about what we do, which is really what we want. And it took a while to get there. We've gone through, so many hires and fires and navigating the interview process and things like that. But I feel like I now don't worry so much about what other people think, and I prioritize what we need and what I know our business needs, and always prioritize that first. And in
Mm.
doing so, we've been able to really build a team that, like I said, is like all on board with our mission and really work so hard and care about our business just like we do, which is what I've always wanted.
Yes. And being able to have that type of team and having the right people, I feel like that's created so much like peace of
Mm-hmm.
mind for you. And so I think it's just having the right support systems, right? To whether
Yes.
that's like in your home and cultivating that relationship, in the business, cultivating that culture there. And like you said, it is consistent refinement, but so much of it is like you recognizing the power that you had in that. And instead of being like, well, it's this person, or it's this, and it's like, well, let's go back to what we can control, right? Let's
Mm-hmm.
refine this hiring process. Let's refine how we're communicating. Let's reset our expectations. Let's be more clear in how we're communicating. And like, you have taken all that and you have run with it. And obviously, it produces great things. So when you were talking about, obviously, one of the first big changes was having a life outside of your business and going outside, which is great. But I also have to like share my favorite story, which is on our initial call together, you were like in tears, emotional, because you are a woman who always wanted to be a mom. And
Mm-hmm.
you felt like that the business would not support that. And I could tell like that was where your heart wanted to go. And so obviously now you're holding your almost 3 month
Yes.
old, which I don't think I'll ever get over it. I think this will be like the story that I am like on my deathbed. I'll be like, yeah, Rachel, it's so incredible, right? That you have gone through this process, made these changes, and now literally are a mom because of what you did. And so tell me a little bit more about like, what do you think the changes were that allowed you to get where you are?
Yeah, so many things. I would say prioritizing my own needs before the business, because like I said, like prioritizing my health going to the workout class instead of answering an email, things like that. They're little things, but they all add up and make a huge difference on how I feel every day and my ability to have a healthy pregnancy and conceive. But yeah, I mean, there's so many changes I feel like that really had to happen. A lot of it was also just like trusting, I think, the team that we had and trusting the systems that were in place, because I definitely 2 years ago was not in a place where I felt like I could not be at the office and trust that everything would go the way it needed to. Whereas now with the team we have, I've had like the best maternity leave because I don't feel like I need to be checking in on them and like making sure everything's getting done right, or that they're talking to patients the way they need to be, or sending that email or whatever it is, because we've worked so hard on building a really strong team, but also building strong systems and putting people in place to confidently fulfill their role. And that's something we've worked a lot on, is like navigating different roles for our staff members. And I feel like now they're all really in a role that suits them, that they feel confident in. And that allows them to just like carry out processes so much better at the office, where I feel so confident and comfortable and at peace being at home with the baby and not worrying about what's going to happen at the office.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really cool to just kind of hear like your words around it too, because there is a level of, there has to be that like tactical operational support, right? To where it's like, here's what to do. Here's the new processes. Here's your roadblocks. Here's the gaps that we're seeing. Here's the solutions, like the nitty gritty and the strategic planning of things and making sense of like the actionable things that you actually need to do. And then there's a level of like you said, of like working through the fear of going to the workout class instead of answering the email, like allowing yourself to feel peaceful, allowing yourself. And so I think a lot of people may not understand how one supports the other. And I do think a lot of people don't do things in the way that I do, where it's kind of the both sides of things. So can you speak to that a little bit about like, how have you seen the strategic parts of what we do and then the internal parts of what we do? How have you seen that kind of support each other, or what has that looked like for you?
Yeah, like systems and stuff putting in place, or
Yeah, just how do you think, in your experience in our work together, if you think back to like how we've done things, obviously we've done a lot of tactical change, and then we've done a lot of change within you and your internal operating system. And
yes.
so in working in both those arenas, what is a way that you've seen that, like, or an example of doing that and how it created something different versus if we had just focused on one or the other?
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah. So, and I think that's where like mindset comes into play so much. That's like the internal work that has to happen. I
Yeah.
think you could have the right systems or the tactical stuff, but if you don't change your mindset, and that's where working with you, I think helped me the most, because I needed that like accountability and that person to just like reassure me. A lot of times I would message you just like, this is what I think about this situation. Am I rational in this, or is just this justified or whatever, just because I lacked that confidence for a while. But as you continue to have that like accountability partnership and just run thoughts by you and feel like heard and feel like reassured that what you're doing is the right solution, I think it eventually leads to way more confidence, where it has to be that like internal work that you're working on yourself and gaining that confidence to be a good leader and things like that, along with all of the systems and more tactile stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all need that, right? It's like, okay, anybody can tell you go do 1, 2, 3. But if you get to step 2 and you're like, oh shit, everybody's going to be mad at me if I do step 2, and then you don't do it, you have to be able to talk through that.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's been so cool to watch you just become so confident and just become like your decision making skills and your communication have just like exploded. So let's go to now. So we've talked about where you were before, the stress that you were feeling, how that was affecting things in the business, outside of the business. We've talked about what actually took place, all the strategic things, the tactical things that we put in place, like how you've changed. Talk to me about now. How do you feel? How is the business going Give me an overview of all of that.
Well, I am working far less than I ever did in the past. And that actually is one of the things I've noticed over the last 2 years working with you. I would say even before I got pregnant, when I really did change my schedule around, I was able to reduce hours and still collect, I think, more than I did, from a financial perspective than when I was working like full time. So now I'm currently, since he's about to be 3 months, I'm still on kind of half my maternity leave where I'm just doing virtual patients. I just started up with that. And I'm only working like 2 days a week, very minimal hours. And I just am able to feel so much more relaxed throughout the week. I'm able to focus on other things. We're working on kind of a newer side business that I'm going to help women with fertility and similar things as I do in the office, but in a little bit of a different way. And I never thought that I'd be able to have the freedom to do a lot from home. And that's what I'm really wanting now because I have a child, to be home more, to be present, to have the flexibility. And when I do go back to the office, it's never going to be full time or close to it. And I don't feel bad about that anymore. That's something I struggled with so much in the past, that I had to be there. I wasn't like valuable enough if I wasn't there all the time. And I just had these thoughts that like I was forcing myself to do things I didn't want to be doing. And I don't feel that anymore at all. I feel like the business could still continue to succeed and be successful and continue to grow even without me there as many hours. And I think that I actually add more value to the office when I'm not there constantly, because I'm available to help train our doctors or to, have actually ideas. This was something I remember early on. Like I struggled to even, it was like I had no space in my head to even come up with new ideas because I was so burnt out and so exhausted from working with patients all week that I couldn't implement anything. And now I feel like with the flexibility of me being much more part-time, still getting to impact patients' lives and like work with them one-on-one, I'm able to come up with new strategies for the office, or, even just like run through different ideas with staff and things like that. And it's not burning me out like it used to. Like I have more free space in my head to come up with ideas, which is really fun because that's a exciting part of being a business owner, is like strategizing and doing that. And when you feel like you're just in the business, working in the business nonstop, you don't get to work on the business. And that's something I enjoy doing. So now I have a lot more of that balance, which I love.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I know everybody listening feels that, because the in the business versus on the business is a whole thing. So what was something unexpected that you either learned or created or have that you didn't know would happen because of our work together?
Unexpected. I would say, honestly, when we started working together, I did not think that I would ever be content with reducing my schedule. Like, I was a workaholic and I did love it in a way that I knew it was like detrimental to my health and to my stress levels, but I also was just so stuck in that like high adrenaline fight or flight mode that I never saw myself actually being content with reducing hours. And I remember when the first time we met, we did our VIP day and you were like, all right, we're changing your schedule. Like you're working, or, you're off on Mondays, I think it was. And I was like, I'll just do it. But like, there's no way this is going to last. And it's, I would say, unexpected in how much I love that shift in my schedule now, where I'm like, okay, how many other shifts can I take off and change things around? But yeah, it is crazy to think back because I just thought like I was always going to be in the office Monday through Friday. And I was so hesitant to make those schedule changes when you presented them. But I love working less now.
Yeah, the resistance phase is always
Yeah.
fun. Where I'm like,
Yes.
every single client, I'm like, do this, and in the back of their head, they're like, I'm absolutely
Yeah.
not doing this. Okay, and then a few months later, they're like, oh shit, she was
Yeah.
right. So if somebody is listening and maybe they've been a long time listener, a long time follower, and they've been kind of back and forth on like when they should work with me or should they work with me, like what would you tell them if they were sitting right in front of you?
Definitely start before you have to. I feel like I got to the point where I remember telling Connor, like, I have to find a business coach or like things are not going to be good for myself, for us, for our future. And it just shouldn't it shouldn't be that way where people feel like they have no other option but to hire somebody. It should be, honestly, I think every single business owner needs somebody like an accountability partner, a business coach, a mentor, somebody that's guiding them along the way.
Yeah.
Just like we all need a coach if you're playing a sport, right? Or, it's the
Mm-hmm.
same sort of thing. And so many people wait until their business is hurting or their health is hurting or relationships are hurting. And it's the same thing with health. Same thing like we say every day in the office is just that we wish people would take that preventative, proactive approach where if
Yeah.
you're going to be opening a business and you care about your life and you care about balance and your relationships, hire the coach before you get to the point where you really need to hire them or things are going to start to be negatively affected in the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a good point. And let's say if somebody is at that point, right? If somebody is at that point where you were and they're like, I think for a lot of my potential clients, they struggle to see, they think that this is going to like add more time to their plate, right? They feel like, okay, I'm already doing too much and I'm so busy. I don't even know where this would fit. And so, can you shed some light on if they're feeling that way, what you would say to them?
Yeah, I think that's probably a common thought and concern. But it's one
Mhm.
of those things where it's like if you don't put in a little bit of the time now, you're going to end up in a place where you're having to probably restructure everything and spend so much more time. Just
True.
like if you don't spend, the money on healthier food options now, you're going to end up spending all the money when you're sick down the road, right? On
Yeah.
surgeries or whatever it is. So, and it's really not, I feel like the way that you guide us and structure things is like you understand what our schedules are and help us to restructure our schedule so that there
Mhm.
is time to implement these things and it's not like an added to-do list. It's more like let's change how we're doing these things so that you do have the time to spend over here, to change this
Yeah.
process or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, all right. Well, I appreciate you, obviously, and our time together and that little baby of yours and just your whole family and
Sound
your whole
asleep.
business and your whole team. And we are going to put in the show notes everything about Rachel, where you can contact her, where you can set up that initial call with her. Absolutely do it. I have been a client, and speaking of like being proactive and preventative, I was like, I should just do this because I feel great, but I could always feel better. And of course, there was things that Rachel helped me with. So should definitely book that. Is there anything else that you want to add as we wrap up this today, Rachel?
I would just say that working with Kelsey has been one of the best decisions that I've made. It wouldn't be like we would not be where we are today, especially with this little guy. I can't imagine having gone through a pregnancy, a maternity leave, like all of that, if I didn't find Kelsey. And I think it's just so important for people to be happy in their business and be able to live a life outside their business. And I see it every single day in the clinic with women that are sick because they're business owners or they're working too much. And all the time I'm like, go listen to Kelsey's podcast because she'll guide you. Like, just do this, listen to her. But I just hope that women can really start to take, like we said, those proactive measures to protect their health, protect their happiness, because you
Mm,
can have a business and be happy and have a life outside of it. And I can't thank you enough. We're so grateful for you.
I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for trying to make me cry. Yes, we have to. And I just love that you use the word happiness because it's just like that is what we deserve. Like, happiness is our birthright, wealth is our birthright, like, being worthy, like, we are inherently worthy. And so, operating as a business owner is truly a privilege. We get to create whatever we want with our businesses and with our lives. And we just don't want to lose sight of that. But it's easy to do, right? It's so easy to do. Thank you again for sharing all of your amazing things. Thank you for reminding me not to drink coffee on an empty stomach. And again, we will put everything in the show notes for you guys. And thank you again, Rachel, for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me.